Our breaking news, the federal government now officially partially shut down.
You could shut down half of the government agencies, and literally it would be years, if it were not for the media, it would be years before the regular person, the normal, average working American would even know that the department had been shut down in terms of, how much it affects their lives.
For families that rely on federal help for food, the shutdown could leave them with an empty table.
It's going to affect me because then I won't be able to come in here and buy my groceries.
I've been saying on the air that government shutdowns really don't matter as much as anymore.
15 federal agencies are affected by the shutdown. 420,000 federal employees are working without pay, and 380,000 employees are now on unpaid leave or furlough.
Has anybody really felt the government shutdown? I mean, I went through the airport a couple of times since the government shutdown, didn't even notice it.
TSA frontline employees, many who make on average about $40,000 a year, which is much less than their federal employee counterparts, despite doing dangerous work of keeping airlines and passengers safe from terrorist attacks, most certainly live paycheck to paycheck. AFGE Local 1260 is hopeful that Congress will stop playing with federal employees' livelihoods by using us as political pawns.
Until we actually start feeling it, right now it's not. It's actually people's lives go on. It's called a partial shutdown for a reason. It's not a shutdown.
The people working just aren't getting paychecks, and it is coming around to the first of the month when rent and bills are due. And there are a lot of questions about, how do these people who are missing out on paychecks keep up with the regular demands of life?
With the shutdown, the impact, much of the federal government has not been touched. And a lot of people across the country don't even notice that part of the federal government is shut down.
Well, all else failed, the mortgage has to be paid. The heat has to stay on. I'm not in any danger, but right now, I don't know what February. Are we going into February? Then that changes the game altogether.
The so-called big government shutdown, which is never really a shutdown.
As for government homebuyer loans, the Federal Housing Authority tells us prospective homebuyers should expect delays in the processing of FHA loans. Meanwhile, small business owners also starting to feel the pinch, with loan applications helping startups obtain financing now being held up. But perhaps the most visible impact for those still traveling this week, our national parks. With decreased staff and closed bathrooms, reports are cropping up of Yosemite roads turning into toilets with human waste, along with a buildup of unkept trash.
The mail will be delivered, the military will be funded, law enforcement entitlement programs are pretty much unaffected.
Some small businesses are even feeling the impact. According to the National Parks Conservation Association, visitors spent about $18 million per day in December in communities with national parks. So lodges, restaurants, souvenir shops, and street vendors that cater to these areas are losing money as parks close.
Shutting down the government, and who's going to notice?
Both men were very frank with us that they need the cash. They are both raising their kids. Their household relies on each of their paychecks every single 2 weeks. And when we were talking with them, they said it ultimately comes down to childcare, comes down to the groceries. And when they don't know what they're going to do, they have to turn to family for some help. They said the credit card charges are going to be ultimately being increased. And depending on how long this goes, does it ultimately turn into going and seeking a loan from the bank? These are very real conversations that are taking place in towns across the country as this government shutdown goes on and as negotiations take place up on Capitol Hill.